My soldiers were eating once a day. They had no ammunition, no vests, no night vision goggles, no communication devices, no drones, no fighter jets, no armored vehicles. And the generals were sitting in their air-conditioned headquarters, sending soldiers to the front lines and watching the massacre reports with general indifference. I was on those front lines. I fought at Djibo. I fought in the 2019 Otapuanu offensive. In the north, in countless operations, I saw soldiers dying beside me. And what I saw drove me to fury. Our soldiers were dying, but the senior commanders would not lift a finger. Many senior officers do not understand him and have nothing but contempt for him. He pays them back well, said a military source. Yes, I pay them back, because sitting in an air-conditioned room watching soldiers die is not leadership. Leadership is going to that front line, walking in that mud, hearing those bullets. My name is Ibrahim Traore. I am a captain, and this is the story of my army. If this is your first time on this channel, know this. Here we tell the real stories of Africa, the truths that Western media does not show and does not want to show. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and watch this video to the very end, because at the end you will see what this army has become today, and you will understand why they tried to kill me 5 times. Let us go back to 2022, September. When I came to power, 40% of Burkina Faso was controlled by terrorists. 40%, nearly half the country. JNIM linked to Al-Qaeda, the largest jihadist organization in the Sahel. IS Sahel, the Islamic State's Sahel branch. 2 groups that fight each other too, but share a common enemy, the state. Since 2015, this war has been raging. Over 10,000 lives lost, 2 million people displaced, towns under siege, villages emptied, roads mined, farmland untouched because farmers are being slaughtered. And our army? In 2022, on the global ranking of countries most affected by terrorism, we surpassed Afghanistan. Burkina Faso became the country most exposed to terrorist attacks in the world. Deaths from terrorism, 1,135 in 2022, 1,907 in 2023, a 68% increase. And what condition was our army in? Light vehicles, basic firearms, minimum air support, no modern armor, no drones, no airstrike capability. My soldiers were patrolling on motorbikes. The terrorists were sometimes better armed than us. Technically and materially, the army cannot be deployed in 8,000 villages at the same time, former President Traore had said. True, but the problem was not only numbers. The problem was a lack of will. The problem was resources going to the wrong place. The problem was generals managing a war from air-conditioned rooms. I came to change that. First step, manpower. October 2022, immediately after taking power, I issued a national mobilization call. I asked for 50,000 people for the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, VDP. 90,000 people applied. 90,000, merely double the target. The people lined up to defend their own country. 14 days of military training, weapons, communication equipment, and to the front. 35,000 assigned to their own villages for local defense. 15,000 deployed nationwide for operational duty. But that was not enough. We recruited 3,000 more soldiers, then 5,000 more, then 14,000 more. Each time, more people, more training, more weapons. Prime Minister Rimtalba Jean-Emmanuel Ouedraogo, more than 14,000 soldiers of all types and thousands of VDP have been recruited, trained, and equipped. But manpower alone means nothing. An unarmed army is just a target. Second step, weapons and technology. After we expelled France, they said, "You are finished. You cannot buy weapons. You cannot get training. You will be alone." We acquired $415 million worth of military equipment. Drones, fighter jets, weapons, ammunition, troop transport vehicles, combat vehicles. The government did not reveal the identity of the supplier, but Army sources confirmed the equipment is already in use. It is producing results on the ground. On some fronts, this equipment is producing concrete results. It is used by soldiers in the field, a source said. And from Turkey, from Baykar, we acquired a dozen combat drones. Bayraktar TB2, Bayraktar Akinci. In April 2024, I delivered these drones to the Ministry of Defense with my own hands. The TB2, you already know it, the drone that changed the world. In Ukraine, in Libya, in Ethiopia, it shifted the balance of war. Now it is in Burkina. The Akinci, larger and more powerful than the TB2, one of the first 6 production models originally delivered to Turkish forces, is now in our army. South of Ouagadougou, a new drone base was built. Aerial reconnaissance, precision artillery strikes, 24/7 surveillance. These drones make it possible to intervene in a timely manner and to have permanent surveillance, I said. And I thank Turkish President Erdogan, because this is a real partnership, not a seller-buyer relationship, but strategic cooperation. In 2022, no drones, no air support, soldiers fighting in the dark. In 2024, Bayraktar TB2 and Akinci, aerial reconnaissance, precision strikes, night vision, surveillance. That is transformation. But technology alone is not enough. You need organization. I restructured the National Theater Operations Command. Previously, it reported directly to the transitional president. Now, it is under the authority of the force commander. Rapid Intervention Battalions, BIR, were established. Numbered battalions, the 5th BIR, the 7th BIR, the 19th BIR, the 30th BIR, each in a different region, coordinated operations. The Special Action and Combat Force, FORSATEC, was created for the most difficult operations. And the VDP is no longer a separate militia. It is an integrated part of the Army, operating alongside the BIRs, working in coordination with air support. In 2022, a fragmented command structure, units that could not coordinate with each other, scattered forces each fighting on their own and losing. In 2026, BIR plus FORSATEC plus VDP, supported by aerial reconnaissance and airstrikes, a coordinated war machine. What was the result? Let us look at Djibo. In the north, a city under siege for years, terrorists surrounded it, cut off the roads, blocked food from entering. People were dying of hunger. In 2022 in Djibo, a terrorist attack killed at least 10 soldiers and wounded 50. The city had nearly fallen. February 2026, right now, our army is breaking the siege of Djibo. Early February, in the village of Barabula, a terrorist base was destroyed, 50 terrorists neutralized. Then an advance eastward. Trophies were transported to Djibo. February 21st, Tongumali and Belahede, 2 militant bases destroyed simultaneously. 21 terrorists neutralized. The bottleneck is widening. Civilians are accessing supplies. The army is holding in the north and advancing toward the Malian border. And we are doing this not only in Djibo, but everywhere. December 28, 2025. In the Kulse area near Barsalogho, aerial reconnaissance detected terrorist units regrouping. The following day, precision artillery strikes decimated the group. Survivors fled north. January 2026, the 5th BIR cleared lookouts in D. The 30th BIR eliminated advance units in Mene. FORSATEC moved into Konan and Kampori, dismantling extremist strongholds and recovering abandoned military equipment. The 7th BIR raided a major base north of Djibasso. First an airstrike to disorient the enemy, then ground troops stormed the position. A significant arsenal was captured. The 19th BIR repelled an attack on a VDP position near Bogandé using a quick reaction force. And a critical development, technological threats were neutralized. Terrorists had started using mini drones. small commercial drones dropping improvised explosives made from plastic bottles. JNIM in February 2025 used such devices to attack military positions in Djibo. January 29, 2026, in Uguru, a specialized terrorist team operating these drones was spotted and eliminated. Similar high-tech threats were neutralized in the Namasagima and Burom areas. This demonstrates the evolution in our Army's electronic warfare capabilities. 2022, soldiers patrolling on motorbikes, terrorists better armed. 2026, BIRs conducting coordinated raids, aerial reconnaissance detecting, precision artillery destroying, counter-drone operations running, sieges breaking, bases falling. From December 2025 to February 2026, several hundred terrorists were neutralized. Vast quantities of weapons and ammunition were seized. This Army's transformation is a miracle the world is ignoring. And they tried to make me pay for this transformation with my life. 5 times. First, September 2023, 1 year after I took power. A coup attempt. Intelligence caught it. Failed. After this attempt, everything changed. Security was stepped up. Armored vehicles deployed. Night traffic banned. Nobody knows where I sleep. I change locations constantly. They distrust everyone, said a security source. A small team has been set up at the palace to secure the president, led by his brother and special advisor Inusa Traore. Only a few remain. My brothers Inusa and Kasum have been by my side from the start. Inusa functions almost like an unofficial vice president. IB does not take any important decisions unless they are approved by Inusa, a source said. Second, during 2024, details classified, but multiple destabilization attempts were foiled. Third, September 2024, weeks after the Barsalogho massacre, hundreds of civilians have been slaughtered, and in the midst of that chaos, another coup attempt. Fourth, late 2024. Fifth, January 2026. Security Minister Mahamadou Sana went on state television late at night. The operation was set to begin 1 hour before midnight on January 3rd. The first step was the neutralization of head of state, Comrade Captain Ibrahim Traore, either at point-blank range or through mining his residence. The second step was disabling the drone base. The third step was a ground military intervention by external forces. The drone base, the base where the Bayraktars are. They wanted to disable it because those drones are changing the war. Without the drones, the army is blind, and a blind army is an easy target. Intelligence units caught it in the final hours. And what did the people do? A call went out on social media, and hundreds of citizens poured into the squares and intersections of Ouagadougou at midnight to defend me. In the streets, the chants echoed, Traore or nothing, no to imperialism. This latest mobilization of the people to protect their leader bears witness to their determination to support the irreversible march toward the liberation of Burkina Faso from the chains of imperialism, said Minister Sana. The prime suspect, Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, the man I overthrew. He lives in Togo. He plots from there. 5 attempts in 3.5 years, and I am still here, still in the barracks, still on soldiers' pay, still fighting. Why? Because this is not a personal matter. This is a people struggle for freedom. If I die, another will come, because the idea is bigger than one person. Sankara was killed, but his idea did not die. 38 years later, I am here. And this army does not only fight, it also builds. Russia on February 20th, 2026, held a ceremony at the General Abubakar Sangoulé Lamizana camp and delivered $345,000 worth of equipment, 10 generators of varying power, 15 transformers of 100 kilowatts each. Why? Because when our army recaptures territory, it needs to bring services to that territory. Electricity, water, infrastructure. In recaptured towns, electrical infrastructure is being built. Military engineering units in crisis zones are not only fighting, they are building. In 2022, the $500 million USMCC aid was canceled. You did a coup. Stay in the dark, they said. In 2026, Russia is sending $345,000 of generators. The US has signed a $147 million health deal. The IMF has approved $157.5 million. And we are building a nuclear power plant. An agreement with Rosatom was signed. Target 2030. 80% of our country lives in darkness, but we are not complaining about the dark. We are building nuclear. France took our uranium for 60 years, left 0 power plants. We are building our own in 3 years, because sovereignty is not only military, it is energy sovereignty too. Think about it. France took uranium from Niger for decades. Niger has no electricity. 15 to 20% of France's nuclear plants ran on African uranium. Africa stayed in darkness, while France stayed in light. That is exploitation, pure, undiluted exploitation. And now we, the exploited country, are building our own nuclear plant with our own uranium on our own soil for our own people. This is not just an energy project. This is the correction of history. The Army's transformation is not only military, it is economic too. My soldiers were eating once a day, and the generals were being trained in Paris, but were useless on the ground. Now, our army protects the nation's gold. Sopamib, the state mining company, manages 11 sites. 5 mines were nationalized. In June 2025, 5 additional mining assets from Endeavor Mining and Lilium were transferred to the state. Wagnian Gold, Semafo Bungu, Resource Ferke, Griffin Minerals, Lilium Mining. Burkina Faso is Africa's 4th largest gold producer. Our army protects the gold. The gold finances the army protects the people produce the gold. That is a cycle. That is sovereignty. And I cut ministers' salaries by 30%. At the same time, I raised workers' salaries by 50%. Because in a state, the people who work the hardest should earn the most. The people who talk the most should earn the least. On February 12, 2026, I issued a decree. Every company with annual revenue above 5 billion CFA francs must build its headquarters in Burkina. Those above 100 billion CFA francs must build a minimum 7-story building, underground and surface parking, energy efficiency standards. Why? Because these companies are making money from Burkina, but sending their profits to Paris, to London, to New York. Not anymore. They will keep the money here, invest here, create employment here. The Faso Fani textile factory in Koudougou reopened in April 2025 under the Sofitex brand. 2 modern cotton processing plants were established in Bobo Dioulasso and Ouagadougou. Instead of exporting raw materials, we are manufacturing locally. The Saisinab SA cement plant in Laongo began production on March 20th, 2025. Daily capacity, 2,000 tons, hundreds of local jobs. A tomato processing plant in Pagnongo opened in December 2024, an $8.9 million investment. Processing capacity of 5 tons of tomatoes per hour. My soldiers were eating once a day. Now the country feeds itself. On December 31st, 2025, I declared food self-sufficiency. In 2024, the current account deficit was 3.4% of GDP. In 2025, it turned to surplus, 1.1% surplus. The first current account surplus in 60 years, driven by high gold prices, rising exports, and controlled energy imports. The IMS, the external sector, has strengthened, driven by higher net exports and improved terms of trade. And we nearly cut malaria in half. Malaria cases, 10,805,020 in 2024, 7,329,278 in 2025, a 32% drop. Malaria deaths, 3,523 in 2024, 1,900 in 2025, a 48% drop. In children under 5, 1.9 million fewer cases. We distributed 15 million insecticide-treated bed nets. We gave seasonal chemo prevention to 4.9 million children, preventive treatment for pregnant women, strengthened diagnosis. Health Minister Dr. Kargugu, unprecedented results reflecting national leadership and strengthened governance. Target: eliminate malaria completely by 2030. The strength of an army is not measured only by how many tanks and drones it has. The strength of an army is also measured by how many lives it saves. 15 million mosquito nets reached into the battlefields. Because we are not only reclaiming territory, we are reclaiming people. What does the West say? The Atlantic Council on February 23, 2026, wrote the Sahel's most acute crisis. Human Rights Watch said civic space is shrinking. The UN Human Rights Chief criticized the dissolution of political parties. Fine. But where were the people making these criticisms when 10,000 people in Burkina were being killed since 2015? This civic space was the space of political parties that handed half the population to terrorists. 104 political parties. 104 in a country of 22 million people. That is not pluralism, that is division engineering. Interior Minister Emile Zerbo, the proliferation of political parties has led to abuses, fueled divisions among citizens, and weakened the social fabric. I call this rebuilding the state. And yes, in April 2025, I said it plainly. We are no longer in a democracy. We are in a people's progressive revolution. Those words shocked the West. But what should really shock you is this. This non-democracy is growing 7 times faster than the G7. It cut malaria deaths in half. It is building 55 hospitals, the US, the IMF, Russia, Turkey, China, all at the table. And these democracies? In Gabon, democracy was a cover for the Bongo family's 56-year dictatorship. In Cameroon, democracy provided legitimacy for Biya's 44-year reign. In Equatorial Guinea, democracy masked Obion's 47 years of theft. Democracy is a tool, not a goal. The goal is the welfare of the people. And I have delivered more welfare for my people from a barracks on a soldier's salary in 3.5 years than 44-year Democrats ever did. At Ghanaian President Mahama's inauguration in January 2025, there were 21 African heads of state. I received the loudest applause. The hall stood up. A Ghanaian artist, Lil Win, made a film about me, Captain Ibrahim Traore, the last African hero. I acknowledged the film, but I did not give a single personal detail about myself. Enoch Randy Eikens of the Institute for Security Studies in May 2025. Traore is arguably Africa's most popular, if not favorite, president. And I still live in a barracks. Why? Because I am not here for myself. I am here for my soldiers. When they were eating once a day, I ate once a day. When they were dying on the front lines, I was on the front lines. And now that they are breaking sieges, I am with them. A leader cannot live apart from his people. A leader cannot live apart from his soldiers. I cannot give orders to my soldiers from a palace. I must be beside them, eat the same food, breathe the same air. That is why there is no palace, no luxury cars, no properties in Paris. That is why $128,566 net worth. That is why a soldier's salary. This is not a choice. It is an obligation. Because a leader who serves his people cannot live differently from his people. My soldiers were eating once a day. Now they are breaking sieges, destroying terrorist bases, running drone operations, neutralizing mini drone threats, building electrical infrastructure in recaptured territory. I survived 5 assassination attempts, and I am still in the barracks, still on soldiers' pay, and my country in the middle of a war is growing at 7.2%. Malaria deaths down 48%, 55 hospitals under construction, gold nationalized, nuclear power plant on the way, the US, the IMF, Russia, all at the table. My soldiers are my family. This barracks is my palace, and this salary is my honor. We are not a generation that complains about poverty. We are a generation that eliminates poverty. We are not a people that complains about darkness. We are a people that builds nuclear. We are not a continent that curses exploitation. We are a continent that ends exploitation. They tried to kill me 5 times. They failed 5 times. Because you cannot kill an idea with a bullet. Sankara was killed, but his idea lives. If I am killed, the idea lives on. Because this idea is bigger than one person. Write in the comments, does your country's army protect the people, or does it protect itself from the people? Does your leader live in a barracks or a palace? Share this video. Africa is waking up, and no force can stop this awakening. And do not forget, we are not alone. On February 26, 2026, yesterday in Ouagadougou, Mali's Defense Minister Sadio Kamara, Niger's Defense Minister Salifou Modi, and our Defense Minister came together. They approved the second-year roadmap for the AES Confederation. Security, development, foreign policy, sovereignty, regional integration, all in one document. Mali, Niger, Burkina. 3 countries, 3 coups, 3 young leaders. All expelled France, all left ECOWAS. And now all together they have built a confederation. In December 2025, I assumed the AES chairmanship, and I said, the AES belongs to all Africans who desire sovereignty, independence, and total freedom. This is not an alliance of 3 countries. This is the awakening of a continent. Homeland or death, we shall prevail.